what an interesting day it is today. Tuesday, the first week of official learning from home, and we've got a really fun lesson for you today. As you can tell from today, the lesson is photography hacks with Mr. Mac. Make your artifact look better. So this is actually related to our final project, the Artifact Museum Display Project. And as you can tell from our moving title, we are planning to learn more about photography today. So come with me on a journey of artistic creativity. All right. So today our learning goal is students will learn how to compose high quality photos that enhance their artifact's visual appearance. So not just learning how to take a photo, but how to do so in a way where it actually enhances the look of your artifact. We definitely don't want you to be spending all your time making great artifacts only for them to look pretty crummy in the photos that you take. So what I'm looking for today is that photos that represent the highest standard that we expect from you in all of your schoolwork. So no sloppy photos that have blurry pictures or that have your dog in the background or that are kind of taken half in the dark where you can't really see what's going on. And photos that show a level of understanding in composition, lighting, and focal points. So today we are focusing on those three things: composition, lighting, and focal points. Is your photo well composed? Is it well lit? And is your artifact the focus, or is something else in focus in your photo? Or is nothing in focus in your photo? That's kind of the weird fourth option. So I've got some powerful tips for your effective artifact photo. Number one, don't be afraid to use your smartphone camera or iPad. These days, the devices that we have access to have awesome cameras. They have fantastic cameras. And so if you're waiting for mum or dad to get home because you wanted to bust out their digital SLR camera, do not worry about that. You can make just as awesome a photo with your iPhone or with your iPad. So I'm going to give you some tips today as to how to do that. Now, this photo on the right here is a photo that my friend Ryan Panofsky took. He is a bit of an Instagram, YouTube guy who takes ocean photos only using an iPhone. And that photo just there was using an iPhone and a waterproof housing. No extra lenses, nothing fancy, just an iPhone out in the ocean. So they can be really good. There are some caveats or some restrictions to that though. iPhone cameras are not very good in low light situations. So if you're trying to take a photo in the dark, you'll realize that your iPhone doesn't really take the greatest photos. And if you turn your flash on, whilst it might illuminate the thing that you're trying to take a photo of, sometimes it makes it overexposed or really, really bright and without any color, or sometimes it just is still pretty blurry. So iPhone cameras are great, but not in all situations. So let's try and fix our situation. So the first step to fixing our situation is step number 2 to making a really awesome photo, which is shoot from a tripod or secure position for photo consistency. Now, because we are photographing an artifact, we really want to make sure that our photos are consistent and they look like they're being taken of the same artifact by the same photographer. And so one way you can do that is by using a tripod. Or a shoe. If you don't have a tripod at home, again, we do not expect for you to go out and buy one, but you can use lots of different things for tripods. I love this photo down the bottom where some people have made some ingenious iPhone tripods. In the past, when I've taken some photos on self-timer, sometimes I've used a shoe and stuck the phone in the shoe. Obviously, that meant that in the photo I was only wearing one shoe, which is a bit odd, but it did mean that the photo was nice and steady and I was able to get into it. So if you have a tripod, it can make a huge difference to ensuring you get consistent pictures. It also really helps with iPhone photos because it stops them from being blurry, and it really eliminates potential for going wrong. So if you rest your camera on, say, a stack of books or anything else for that matter, just make sure that it's nice and steady so that it doesn't slip or fall as well. All right, the next step is lighting. Step number 3, natural light versus artificial light. Choose one. Often photographers will use a flash. Now, our iPhone flashes aren't amazing for photography. They can sometimes be good, but not always. So in this instance, I've feel like the best option you've got is to either use natural light, so light from the sun outside, or artificial light. So a bit later on, I'll show you some examples of using both types of light and how you can get both to work really, really well. They do just create different feels in your pictures though. All right, so never underestimate how much certain lights or types of lights can improve or hinder your product photography. Remember, audiences get the best look of an item in person, where they can see all the finer details of an artifact. Now, you guys are making a website. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic that is gripping our world, none of you will actually be able to show off your museum artifact until at least next term. And so because of that, we really need to get a high quality image so that we can see how well you have done in this task. Now, the right lighting arrangement can help you reveal those finer details of your artifact, and you'll actually see later on it makes a huge difference. I took some photos of the same artifact in 2 different lighting settings, and it was remarkable how different the outcome was. Number 4, use portrait mode to emphasize the product. So if you've got an iPhone that has portrait mode, you will realize that it is blurring the background, and so it puts your item in focus. Now you can do this on a lot of different cameras, often by just tapping on the item on your camera screen, and what that will do is focus either the exposure, so how bright your camera wants to make the photo, as well as the focus point on your actual item. Now it's really important that your item is in focus so those finer details can be seen. And so if you've got portrait mode on your phone, make sure you're using that to try and emphasize your product and make it stand out. Be very mindful of your background. Now, obviously, as over the last few days, we've been doing Zoom conversations and we have been filming videos and all sorts of things like that. Now, as part of that, we need to make sure that we don't have our dirty laundry in the background, and the same goes for your artifact. When you're taking a photo, we do not want to see what your mum is making you for dinner. We do not want to see your dirty clothes on the floor, and we definitely don't want to see you holding it. We don't want to see your hand on this artifact. If it truly was a valuable, precious artifact, it wouldn't be in someone's kitchen. So it's important to make sure that we're representing it like it would be represented in a museum. And there's some very, very simple, very affordable ways to do that. The best one that I feel is to actually make a sweep. Now, a sweep is something that people use in professional photography studios to get the effect of there being no kind of walls or background, just a complete white backdrop with no corners, no lines, no imperfections. Now, you might be like, that looks like a lot of work, Mr. McIntyre. It does, but there are some very simple ways that we can get around that. So don't choose a background based on what's easiest to create. Don't use your bedroom wall unless it's a really awesome bedroom wall. Background should resemble how you want your audience to perceive your artifact when viewing it online. So in the same way that if you're looking for a pair of Nike shoes, they've probably been taken in a studio similar to these with a backdrop so that the focus is really on the shoe and not anything in the background. Next, you should consider whether you'd like a white background or a more dynamic real-world background. There are some artifacts that might actually look really good on a kind of display. So if you place them on like a board or a plate, and then you're able to have just like a pretty neutral background, that could look fine. You just don't want it to look like your house. So consider those things, and like I said, a bit later on in the video, I will show you how to create your own sweep with a piece of paper. And it's very, very effective. All right, number 5, editing can fix almost everything. Almost everything. The idea is that if you take enough good photos with good lighting, in editing, you should be able to at least find 3 that you like and that you are willing to submit. So my favorite app to edit on is VSCO, and I'm a really big fan because it's got some really helpful tools like changing the exposure and the contrast of your photo, as well as applying presets to suit your artifact. If you would rather, you can also upload your photo to your computer and use Photoshop to edit it. If you're not sure how to use Photoshop, there are heaps of helpful videos, and I'll link some of those in the lesson box for this today. Now, some tips. Make sure your exposure and contrast are set to best display the fine details of your artifact. They're probably the two most important things to make sure that your photos all look consistent and all look good. All right, now it's your turn. Time to take photos and upload your work. So our lesson activity today is to take a photo of your artifact, or take photos, I should say, of your artifact. And if you don't have a finished artifact yet, then please take a photo of an action figure, a stuffed toy, or a trinket of your choice. It's really important that we don't wait until you have an artifact ready to start this task, but rather that this task begins today. Now remember to take multiple photos, choose your background well, use portrait mode if you have it, and edit the photos so that only the parts that you want to be focused on are the focus of your picture. Once you have taken and edited your photos, upload a Word document that contains your 3 best shots. Now, this is awesome for those that have already started the artifact task and who have got an artifact, because it means that right now you can begin taking the photos for that project, and the 3 best photos that you finish can actually be put straight into your assessment task. Like I said, if you're not up to that point, there is nothing to worry about at all. Just choose your favorite toy or a trinket or jewelry or something of that nature, something that you'll be able to photograph well, and you can complete this activity that way. All right, don't forget to have fun. This is a creative task and I really hope you enjoy it, pretending to be a studio photographer for the day. And finally, a quote from a famous photographer, Ansel Adams. He says, "You don't take a photograph, you make it." And that's especially true today. We're not just getting a camera and snapping what's in front of us, but instead we're creating an experience that really focuses on our artifact and makes sure that our focus isn't on our dirty bedrooms or the hand that's holding our artifact. All right, I've got a video for you next. I really hope you enjoy it, and I really hope that you see those actions coming into play of how we can use those 5 steps to really create an awesome photo experience. All right, welcome to my quick 4-minute photo tutorial. The first thing I'm going to show you is what not to do. This person is not taking their photos with a sturdy camera, they're just hand holding it. They don't have lighting set up, so when they get into their editing software, VSCO in this example, they don't have much to work with. Their background, they didn't think about that either, and so they've got this laptop with stickers on it, they've got a drink bottle. I've never been to a museum that had an artifact displayed in front of a drink bottle. Maybe that's a new thing for an art gallery, but definitely not something that you want at a museum where the focus is meant to be on the artifact itself. Now you can see that they're kind of struggling to get something that looks good and presentable, so they decide to crop out, that they being me, I decided to try and crop out everything out of the background, but have a look at how pixelated that is now. Now, you know what? Not the worst thing ever, but is it as good as it could have been? I'm going to go out on a limb and say definitely not. We could definitely have done better than that. And so what I'm about to show you is exactly that, the contrast. As you can see on your screen, they're a very, very different looking artifact. But it is actually the same artifact, just taken in a different way. So the better way, you can see from this, I've got a lamp set up. Not any special flash, just a regular desk lamp. I've got my phone on a tripod in portrait mode. I've got a piece of paper, that's all it is. And I haven't even stuck it to the wall. I just put it there and I put the artifact on top, and it creates this awesome feature where you cannot see the edges, and it looks as though the artifact is just floating in white space. Now on VSCO, I'm having a look for some filters that might suit my artifact in terms of the coloring and things like that. Quickly found one I like the look of, and from there what I'm going to do is adjust the exposure. I'm going to increase the exposure a little bit, which makes all of those little details just really pop out, and also the contrast, which then brings in the contrast between the light and the dark in my picture. Now from there, saturating the colors just ever so slightly. You don't want to oversaturate, otherwise you'll kind of, it's kind of like, yeah, it blocks out all of the detail with too much color. And I think I put a little vignette on this as well, just mucking around, trying to be fancy, because I know that this is going to be way better than the one before. Now you guys can spend as much or as little time as you want messing around with the editing of these. The really important thing is that you're setup, you've actually created the right environment for a really good photo to take place. So that's why it's really, 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 really important that you are setting up your photo in a way where you've got good lighting, good background. You can be using an iPhone, doesn't need to be a fancy camera, and making sure that you are editing your photo so it looks absolutely pristine. And what have I got outside? I've got some natural light, and I've got my little studio setup happening here with my artifact, a little makeshift background. And with that, I'm able to set up a really, really awesome natural light photo. Now, will it work for all of your artifacts? Maybe not. If I had my artifact on the opposite side of the table, it definitely wouldn't work because the light would be facing the camera lens rather than hitting my artifact and creating this cool shadow behind that gives it depth. So here is my final artifact photo. There's a before and after VSCO editing, bringing out the brightness and the colors. Anyways, guys, I really hope this helped, and I look forward to seeing your artifacts. P.S. Thank you so much for listening right to the end of the video. If you've got an artifact that you really cannot take a photo of in a setting like this because it is far too big, what I'd love for you to do is to try and set it up somewhere where it looks in place. So if you've got a weapon, maybe you could demonstrate that outside somewhere, or if you've got furniture, then try and set it up in a room where it looks appropriate. Alright, if you've got any other questions, make sure you take advantage of the help desk. Mrs. Cochran and I will be on the help desk from 10 till 2 today. Have a great day. Bye.